Ever seen a simple power trip destroy a seven-figure contract? I used to work for a company that cared more about appearances than anything practical. There were two entrances, the staff one around the side and the glossy executive entrance at the front, with glass doors, polished floors, and a receptionist who guarded it like a treasure vault. Staff weren't allowed to use it unless they were someone important. Even walking too close to it earned you a look. One morning, a client I'd been working with for months was visiting. To keep the day smooth, my boss's boss told me I could use the executive entrance freely. He even arranged an actual executive parking space for me, signed by a director. I dropped off my car keys with reception, standard procedure for that car park, and spent the day touring the client around the building. It went perfectly. The client was happy. We got great feedback, and I felt like I'd done something meaningful for the company. Then I walked back to the executive doors at 5:10 p.m. The entire area was locked. The gate blocking the car park was closed. Reception had shut down. My car was sitting behind the metal fence, and my keys were sitting in a box behind the desk, and I was standing in typical evening rain with no way to get home. Taxi apps weren't common then, so I stood there for about half an hour, hoping I wouldn't get completely soaked before one finally arrived. By the time I made it home, my hair, makeup, and mood were all ruined, and the fare cost nearly £50. The next morning's rush hour taxi cost even more. When I finally reached the receptionist to get my keys back, they didn't even let me finish my sentence. They snapped that I was not permitted to use that entrance and needed to go around to the staff entrance. I politely explained my car was right outside and my keys were sitting in their box. They refused again, repeating the same line about only senior employees. They even warned me that trying again could lead to a write-up. So I asked them to put that in writing. They gladly did, sending an email filled with phrases like lack of respect and serious misconduct. I saved it everywhere I could think of and printed copies for good measure. When I told my manager what happened, he was completely on my side. He told me not to fight it, just leave the car in the executive car park and take taxis everywhere I needed to go. Work, lunch, gym, groceries, errands, weekends, you name it. So I did. For 7 full weeks, my car sat in that executive spot, gathering dust, bird mess, and eventually a flat tire, while I built up a small mountain of taxi receipts. Eventually, one of the directors noticed the sad, abandoned-looking car and asked why it was there. A client even commented on it. They checked the parking pass number, realized it was mine, and emailed asking for an explanation. I forwarded the receptionist's email and asked if I could have time with the legal director because I wasn't sure if withholding an employee's personal property was even allowed. 2 hours later, I had an urgent meeting request from senior management and was told to come through the executive entrance immediately. Inside, 3 directors sat waiting, suddenly polite and apologetic. They blamed miscommunication, said I should have had access all along, and that of course I could retrieve my car. I asked why it took 7 weeks for anyone to notice and why no one resolved the situation earlier. They had no answer. Then I placed a folder on the table, £3,000 worth of taxi fares, plus the cost of recovering my car to the dealership, a full detailing, a new battery, a full service, and 2 months of finance payments I'd made while it sat unused. The room went very quiet, and then quieter still when I informed them I would no longer be handling client visits, followed by the printed, director-signed approval, proving I had been authorized to use the entrance that day. Later, I heard that the client I'd hosted earlier wasn't happy being passed to directors who didn't know the technical work. They didn't renew their 7-figure contract. Whether that was because of this or something else, I'll never know, but the timing lined up neatly. There was one final ripple. When my manager tried to speak to the same receptionist, she refused to let him use the normal staff entrance during heavy rain and told him to walk around the building. He asked for an umbrella. She said no. He used his laptop as one instead and billed the full replacement cost to her department with her name attached. A few months later, that receptionist was no longer with the company. My car still runs perfectly, and every time I drive past that building, I give it a little salute. How many fingers I use depends on my mood.